What's up, everybody? Jonathan Rose, owner, Masters in Trading. We're looking at unusual options activity. Got a little bit of a trade idea for you. Probably a good one to paper trade, probably a good one to follow because it expires in a week. But it really feels like TSM, the options are pricing way too cheap considering how much volatility there is in the market right now. So let's get into the trade. All right, so here we go, guys. Before we get started, today is January 8th. On January 12th, I'm going to hold a free presentation, a webinar on unusual options activity. I'm going to go over a web-based tool that we built called the Wall Street Wiretapper. In the video description, I'll leave a sign-up link. Please join us. Okay, so here's the Wall Street Wiretapper. If I put in TSM, and this is Taiwan Semiconductor. For those that aren't aware, it's an ADR. Taiwan Semiconductor is one of the leading companies in the world. It's got a market cap of $370 billion. Well, Wall Street Wiretapper, going back 5 years, picked up 14 results. But the results are right now. January 7th, the 6th, the 5th, the 4th, December 30th. But then you could see it didn't pick up data unless we go back to 2018, 2017, 2016. So why now? What's going on right now? Wall Street Wiretapper, it's also picked up our D code. These are our different codes. I'll go over each of those codes in the webinar. Now what I want to do now is I want to go through why I think this is a decent opportunity. So in front of you, TSM, going back about, 2 years, right? Obviously a very strong company. Low vol, breaks out, didn't really go anywhere, and now recently has broken out. Now, as a former market maker on the floor of the Chicago Board Options Exchange, I can definitively tell you, when stocks start moving really fast, market makers have no clue where to value them at. They don't, they just try to stay out of the way. So when you see a name like Taiwan Semiconductor really sharply move 20 points, market makers don't know if this should be valued at 120, 140, 100. They're just making markets. They're just trying to give an efficient place where folks can trade options from both sides. So what I want to do now is look at the options chain, because I'm a big believer that when stocks move really fast, nobody knows where to value them at. That's why we have to increase volatility. And so when volatility is increased, that allows the market makers to make wider markets. So for instance, let's look at the 145 strike. And again, these options expire in 7 days. These are weekly options. But for example, when volatility kicks up and gets higher, market makers can be 23 cents at 26 cents if they want. But if all of a sudden TSM was going crazy, those 145s, if I was the market maker, I might be dime bid at $1 because I want edge. I want to buy it at a dime. I want to sell it at $1. These guys want to buy it at 23 cents and sell it at 26 cents. That's a very, very tight market. For the amount that TSM is moving, I personally think they're crazy for making a market that tight. Here's why this trade is timely. Taiwan Semiconductor's next earnings date is January 14th. January 14th is next week. You'll notice that it's within the weekly expiration cycle. I didn't want to be in the quarterlies because the quarterlies have 14 days till expiration, and that's extra time after earnings that I don't want to pay for. So I think 7 days, we see on the Wiretapper that this stock is definitely in play. There's big players out there in this stock. Now, the thing about Taiwan Semiconductor is it's not a real big mover after earnings. It's just not. But the stock has been moving a ton lately. If we look at just today, and the market's been open for only 2 hours, there's a $5 range. 7 days to go until expiration. The market right now is pricing in $7.40 of overall movement. So if we look at the money is going to be that 122. We see the value of the strangle, buying the call and buying the put. The value of the strangle or the straddle, strangle would be if you just did calls and then you just did out of the money puts. This is the straddle. The straddle is expecting, about $7 worth of movement. So that's $7 higher, about here, and then $7 lower, which is about here. Now, if I go back to the chart, and here we just looked at a smaller time frame, $7 lower is right here. That barely takes us to Wednesday. $7 higher, is that really that far away? Not with the amount that TSM is moving right now. So back to the options, it sure feels like to me that the options are not pricing in enough movement. Now, this was a screenshot at 122. You see, I just went back to that chart. It's at 120, literally 10 minutes from when I posted this. So it's already fallen $2. This is saying only $7 for 7 days. That doesn't make too much sense to me. So what are the opportunities? Well, again, you could buy a straddle, buy the at the money straddle, fine. But what I want you to think of is think about your portfolio. Your portfolio, if you own 10 stocks, my dog's saying hello to everybody. If you own 10 stocks, if you're long 100 shares of those stocks, you're long 100 delta for each of those stocks. Overall, if your portfolio is bullish, perhaps in this heightened elevated state with volatility going higher, with the US kind of falling apart, perhaps you need to cover that downside. So if you just want downside, maybe you are a put buyer and you go and you buy puts. You buy the 120s or the 118s or the 116s, something like that. Because the rest of your exposure will cover the upside. Because if the market moves a lot, everything is a beta of 1. If you don't have any position and you're just neutral, then for something like this, you may consider both sides of the trade. For me, I like the downside. I think TSM will sell off a little bit. I think there's more volatility in the market than the market makers are pricing for TSM. And plus, we have that earnings catalyst next week. Hope you liked it. Join us for our presentation this coming Tuesday, the Wall Street Wiretapper, talking about leading edge trading technology, why we produced it, and what we do with it. Thanks, guys. Jonathan Rose, owner, Masters in Trading.